So quilt number 3 was the winning quilt in the election of which quilt will become my next quilt coat. And so today we're going to talk about quilt number 3 and the steps going forward as we embark on this quilt coat journey. Hi, I'm Paige from m.a.b.e.l, and I repurpose damaged old quilts into modern clothing and accessories for the modern maker. Today we'll be working on this wonderful log cabin quilt. So the log cabin quilt has a long history in the United States, and when I got this quilt, I was really excited because it looked so different. The logs were thinner than I typically see, and the coloring too was really interesting and very consistent. So for comparison, I have this more contemporary log cabin quilt. And in a log cabin quilt, you typically start with the center square and then you build out. Basically, you have your center square, you start with your first log, you line up the raw edges and you stitch and you press it back and you continue to build out, going around and around till you get the length and the width that you like. When I looked at this quilt, it seemed a little bit different. It seemed to be constructed differently than typical log cabins. The logs seemed more pleated than pieced. And so I thought it actually might be a Manx style log cabin, which I've never handled before and only read about. Manx style log cabins are stitched onto a foundation, and the way they're stitched, the way the logs are stitched, it creates a pleating effect with the logs as opposed to a pieced effect. You can see this a little bit on the back. There is no batting in this. You can see where the logs are stitched down onto the backing. The next log just sort of lies on top, and therefore you get that pleated effect. These pleats have come loose though. I think I'm going to have to do some stitching to sort of tack them down or maybe whip stitch them down. In some of the places, the pleats are stitched down only to the log in front, not to the backing. Okay, so like right here, we'll be able to see on the reverse side, you can see the red stitches where the log is stitched down to the backing. But here, maybe that's 1/4 of an inch away, the log is only stitched to the blue piece, not all the way through to the backing. And then you can see the blue thread where that blue log is stitched down. So I need to just secure this a little bit more. It's gonna take a little bit of work. So what I think I'm going to do is lay out my pattern pieces and repair the areas that I plan on using for the jacket so that I am not completely stitching every single log on this quilt. But I do want to stitch it down before I clean it because I feel like some of this fabric is delicate and I want it to be in good shape when it goes in the bath for its soak. So this is a portion of the quilt that I know I will be using for my coat, and I am just gonna catch the edge of the blue. I am no way as good as the person who did this first. The blue fabric has like the tiniest bit of a seam allowance folded under, so I'm just trying to grab that. I'm also making sure that I'm catching the red log. As I'm doing this, I'm realizing I should have been using blue thread on the blue logs, but I'm just going forward with this neutral colored off-white. The white and yellow logs were in much better shape than the blue and red, making the sewing that much easier. I'm going to knot my thread here at the end of the row and then bury it by passing the needle between the log and the backing fabric. So I just stitched 1, 2, 3, 4 logs. Some of the logs don't need stitching, some pieces of the logs don't need stitching, but I am going to go through, I am going to cut out my pattern pieces, I'm going to serge the edges, I'm going to stitch down the logs that need repair on those pattern pieces, and then I am going to soak those pattern pieces to get them clean. So those are my next steps. Here's a sneak peek of what's coming. Have you ever seen or handled a Manx quilt before? I'm not sure if this is a traditional one or a riff on one. I'd love to hear it if you've got experience with this type of quilt. So for more content like this, and you can follow along this quilt coat journey to see where it takes us, you can hit like and subscribe for more.